Hello, everybody. How's it going? My name is Wade Acuff, and I am here today with photographer and videographer Kristi Odom. How's it going, Kristi?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to be here. I'm excited to talk with everybody about video today.
Awesome. Glad to have you. Before we get going, if you missed it, the previous stream, you can catch a replay on Behance and on YouTube. Check out the Lightroom Bootcamp with Aaron Nace. It's going to be Monday through Thursday this week from 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Tune in and challenge yourself with a new prompt every day. Kristi, why don't you give us a little bit about what you do and what we're going to get up to in the next couple of days.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm really excited to be here. I'm a wildlife photographer and filmmaker. I focus on conservation stories as well as connecting people emotionally to wildlife. I want to show that animals have personality and emotions and characters. And so I've been a visual artist for a while now. I'm part of the Nikon ambassador team. I'm part of the International League of Conservation Photographers. And yeah, so really excited because the cameras are so good and you can do so many amazing things with them. And I remember when I got my first Nikon Z, my Z7 II, my Z7 was the first one. And I remember seeing all the video functions and going, well, I've got lenses, I've got a camera, like, what does this do? And I started playing around and it opened this world to me, like a total world of like exploration and creativity, and being able to like do video has ended up opening a lot of doors professionally for me as well. The camera's always been a tool for me to connect deeper to nature. So being able to do slow motion videos, I started being able to see all these intricacies of what slowing down time looked like for the wings of birds, and I just became obsessed. And I'm excited today to talk more about that journey.
Excellent. Well, what are we up to? Like, what are we actually getting our hands on today then?
We're going to get our hands on Premiere Pro, and we're going to start today with talking about making short clips for your website, for Instagram, for Facebook, which is how I got started in slow motion video, was just kind of this short form. And then tomorrow we're going to go much bigger than that, because these little short form videos that I've been making has ended up landing me multiple campaigns for Nikon doing slow motion video. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I heard an O.
No, that was me saying, oh, wow.
I like, oh my goodness, sometimes. And so I'm really excited too, because I want to be able to Premiere Pro is a beast. It is a big program. I feel like I probably know 5 to 10% of that program, but I think that's what's exciting, is the fact that even with the limited tools that I'm able to use, I am doing big commercial jobs, and I'm really excited to help push people that maybe have never used the program before, show them these intro tools that I use and I use professionally. And hopefully that'll open up doors for people to not be so intimidated by the size of Premiere Pro. And yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. What's up, chat? Hi, everybody. How's it going? Where are you guys from? Let us know. And I guess whenever you're ready, if you want to show some work or jump into our project today, we can go ahead and get started.
Sure thing. I'm going to start by sharing my Instagram, because this is where my video journey started. This is my Instagram page. And if you scroll down, when did I start doing video? Started doing video way down here. Started having a lot of fun with it. I think these were some of my first videos that I put on Instagram. I think this was my first Instagram video share. And for me, as a visual artist, a lot of times when I'm taking photos, I'm asking myself what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. And when movement is part of that narrative, I think about how can I capture that movement, and sometimes that speaks to video. So this was my very first Instagram video, and it was kind of on the textures of elephants.
Wow.
And then I did a few more, one on the movement of snakes, because I love the slow motion movement. I'm shooting all of this at 120 frames per second. I was shooting this at high def. I'm now doing a lot of 4K. But this is where I started to really geek out, is the fact that the slow motion video started revealing the patterns in the wings of bees. And, when I was a kid, my favorite toy was this explore your backyard with a magnifying glass and a microscope. And it was like this world that was just so beautiful. And I find, for me, photography is the same thing, with being able to take photos of details of patterns, and then now all of a sudden being able to alter time with slow motion video. So it's been a big journey and exploration, and I'm kind of excited to share that journey with you. So these I posted, and I posted with my hashtags, Nikon no filter, which is a hashtag Nikon does watch. And I ended up booking, Nikon called me and asked me if I'd put together a compilation, a celebration of some of my slow motion video. So my first campaign on slow motion video, you see the snake, there's the snake in color this time, but this was my very first slow motion campaign. It wasn't one that I got to go out and photograph, but they wanted me to give a collection of my work. And I was going, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Like, I've never, I was just kind of making these videos that I loved for my Instagram. And so today we're going to talk about making those Instagram posts. I'm going to show you the process. I'm going to show you how easy it is in Premiere Pro. And I'm also going to share with you guys how I use videos on my own website, because I use videos for, like for instance, we do workshops. And in order to advertise, I'm doing a lot of videos to kind of help immerse people into the feeling of what it's like to be out there. And I've noticed that there's a big hybrid on websites that are starting to combine photo and video on their sites. So as you can see, I've got them on all of our upcoming workshop websites, from using drone footage here, using slow motion footage. I use them in my photojournalism. So I think that there's been a bigger request for, let me back up a little bit, if that's okay. Wait, am I rambling?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you keep going. I'm amazed. I poured over your work over the weekend, and there's always something new, like little clips. It's like I didn't see that one. So I'm kind of mesmerized. But go on.
I think one of the things that I was, for some reason, fixated on in the beginning of my career, beginning of my filmmaking, is I felt that I had to be making full films, big documentaries, and big pieces. And what I was missing is that there is a demand for these little visuals that are like, think of them like moving stills, like a photograph inside a series of photographs. And you'll start seeing this more and more on different websites. I use these in conservation storytelling to help people see the species that I'm photographing. And I really do truly think that this is the path to the future, especially for photographers that need to stand out and have a little something extra. I do moving portraits so people can get a little bit more of a feel of the instructors for the workshops. But this is, something that, and so we're going to start today with, some of these. If you guys are into bears, I'm going to show you how I made some of my bear clips for this website. And how you can make how you can make clips of your own slow motion. It doesn't have to be bears. It can literally be your dog hanging out the window with the wind in their fur or whatever. The sky. It could be a bee outside. There's so many cool things that you can do to your website or in your social media. So when people are scrolling through, they see that movement. So that's what I'm excited to share today. Is that all right?
Excellent. Yeah, that's I mean, just looking at the work is amazing. I can't wait to see what we're gonna do with these bears. And I noticed that you were talking about having video on your website. that is really an attention grabber. Like you start to scroll down and it's like, oh, there's another picture. It's a beautiful picture. But then when you catch a video, it's like, oh, this is, you're getting a little bit more about the story. But let's enough about me just going on about your work, which I could do all day. But let's see what you got planned for us.
Wonderful. We are going to open up Adobe Premiere Pro. And we are going to start with a brand new project here today. I'm going to call this, I love that there's a new interface. Like I'm really into this new interface. We're going to call it Adobe Bears.
And we will be taking some questions from chat as we go, so I'll be feeding those to you. Also, welcome anybody that's over on YouTube. Hi, how's it going? The moderators are going to try and help you get your questions over to us as well. But let's see.
And
so we're starting with a.
Yeah, if anything lags, let me know because while I have I have a pretty fast computer, I have made proxies that I can switch over to if I need to.
Yeah. Okay. No worries.
But so I usually don't use them too much because I have a fast computer, and that's a world that I'll mention briefly. But I want to just start with how I started. And these are high definition videos. They're not 4K or anything like that. So if you're just shooting on, my favorite is 120 frames per second and pulling them in. I do make folders on my desktop with all of my selections. So I've got, here we go, bear number 1. So I've got proxies or compressed files that I can attach to these to make my videos look better on your end if they are lagging, because yeah. So okay, let me step back. I double click on this panel down here that says import media to start. You can also import media right when you open up the software as well, but I like doing it here. So I double click here and then I go to my folder number 1, and here's all of my favorite clips. I will say, when you start taking the clips and taking photos and videos, when you start taking videos, they don't look too good until you slow them down because they'll play back at like 30 frames per second. Frame rate is something really important that we do need to talk about. That's the one bit of math that you got to make sure that you understand, and I'll make it as easy as possible. But whenever you're making video, you've got to think about playback, for the most part, being either 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second. Okay? And when you're shooting at 120 frames per second, you're getting all these extra frames. So taking those 120 frames and moving it down to a playback speed of 30 frames per second is what slows down that footage. Okay? So that's the one little complicated thing, and that's how slow-mo works. There's all different slow motion capabilities on different cameras. There's 60 frames per second. I've heard of a lot faster speeds and things like that. I love 120 frames per second. So here are all my clips that I've done at 120 frames per second. This was all with my Nikon Z7. And what I'm going to show you first is I just want to show you what the clips look like before I slow them down, because they don't look too good. And I don't want anyone to be scared or intimidated when they start shooting. And to be completely honest, wildlife moves so fast that I a lot of times am not on a tripod, and I'm shooting video handheld with using camera stabilization and vibration reduction. But you get clips that are crazy. I'm just going to drag these clips to my timeline. The timeline is here. And as you see, this is going to look bad, but I have to show it to you guys. Do you see how jittery it is and how up and down, and you see all the movements, right? So that's what the clips are going to look like with the playback and the camera. You can see that, yeah, I'm definitely not. Oh, this one here, I want to show you my favorite. It's Sparkle Run. But these bears are like all over the place, right? And so is my stabilization. It is all over the place. You guys are seeing my raw video, which is kind of scary.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. If you're going to show it anywhere, this was the place to show it. People want to see the down and dirty and then the magic at the end.
Oh my goodness. Well, one of the reasons I'm starting with this one is because I did start my journey with video in black and white because of it took me a little while to get better with color, and we're going to move on to color after this. So we're going to do our first clip in black and white. I'm going to get rid of this whole timeline. Yes, Wade?
I was going to say, we're going to start with a little question here. Laura is asking, how did you get into this career? Like, I know it's a broad question, but.
Photography? Oh my gosh, that could be the whole 2 hour segment. It was I actually went to school for electrical and computer engineering. I never thought I would be a photographer.
Oh, wow.
And then before I went to college, I actually inherited my grandfather's camera when he passed away. And me being so shy and introverted, I hid behind it and I started to remember him when I was taking pictures. So I became all of a sudden like I became the center of attention. I could be at the foot of stages of concerts. I could be on the field during these big sporting events, and the camera helped bring me out of my shell. And it's beautiful because the camera's a tool for us to record our passions, and my passions have changed. I photographed and videoed like all sorts of different subjects, but my main passion has always been nature, and nature conservation is something I've been really digging hard into for the last 5 years. It did take me a long time to be full-time nature. I'm going to be honest with that. I had to shoot a lot of weddings, probably well over 300-400 of them. But help me buy the gear, help me travel the world, and now I'm here, and I'm really excited to be a full-time nature photographer and cinematographer.
I have several friends that some are still in, but have gone that whole wedding photographer career. I mean, it's good. It's good work. It's good work.
It's
but it
great
is,
work.
yeah.
And it's so beautiful to give somebody something that they're going to love and cherish and show their children, and that heirloom. Like, it felt very fulfilling in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But that being said, I'm glad I'm doing full-time wildlife now. I do miss the
Yes.
weddings, but yeah, it's nice. All right, so here's the Premiere interface. You've got all these different panels. If your panels don't look like mine, you can go up to Window and make sure you've got the correct workspace, the right panels, everything there. So if something looks different, go check out your workspace. This is your timeline. This is where all the information goes for your video. And this is the media. This is where all your little media clips are. And Wade, if you have any way of more articulating, or if I'm saying something wrong, just
Oh no.
no.
No, I mean you're fine.
Okay.
Do you have a specific workspace, like something you've customized and saved for how you work, or do you just go with the default?
I just go with the default.
Hey,
I keep
classic.
things
It's
simple.
classic. Yes, absolutely.
This is exactly how I do it. Okay, so, but now I do want to, if I drag and drop my videos here to the timeline, it'll create a timeline based on the videos. That'll try to match the frame rate. I find that the high speed doesn't actually quite match up. I actually always go here to File, New, and then I do Sequence. So File, New, and Sequence. And then under the settings, I like controlling my sequence. I like knowing everything about it, and I like controlling exactly what it has on there. I'm a big fan. When I said 30 frames per second, what I actually meant was 29.97 frames per second, but people refer to that as 30. And I find that to be a great frame rate for nature video. A lot of times when you see people in movies in that cinematic feel, that's done at that 24 frames per second. But for me, I'm constantly moving the 120 frames per second, then I shoot down to 30 frames per second. The last setting I was doing was a TikTok setting. I'm not making a TikTok right now. So high def is 1080 on the vertical by 1920 on the horizontal. They talk about those numbers a lot of times with the vertical number being the one they talk about. Let me know if I'm saying that all right. So 4K is actually 2160 on the vertical and 3840 on the horizontal.
Exactly.
And we'll talk a little bit about HD tomorrow, or 4K tomorrow, but not today. I keep it on 709 for anything that I'm doing that's not super high quality. If I'm doing like a Nikon campaign, sometimes I'll use this one, Rec 2100. But for what we're doing for website, everything today, it's going to be in Rec 701. And usually when I'm doing the higher quality, I'll check all of these boxes, all the high quality boxes, but I'm not going to do that today because it's going to, maybe at a cost of a little bit of information in the file itself, but it'll help make this nice and speedy for this presentation. And then I'm going to click OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a sequence. Okay, and you can name this however you want. I'm usually lazy, and it's usually sequence 1 for me. I could have named it, bears running or something like that, but I didn't. And now I've got all of my clips over here in my media panel. What I'm going to do, I actually want all of these clips to not be at 120 frames per second. I want them to be at 29 frames per second, 30 frames per second. So here's the math. You take your final frame rate, which for me is 30 frames per second, and you divide it by what you shot at. So I divide 30 by 120. And what you get is 0.25 or 25%. That's the only math you have to do. Okay? If you're shooting at 60 frame rate and you're trying to get down to this 29 or this 30 frame rate, so 60, you divide those numbers and you get a half. You get 50% for your speed. That's the math. And it scares so many people, but that's all you have to do is divide your target frame rate by your shooting frame rate. That's it.
It's just a small amount of math. Stay with us, everyone. Just stay with us.
So now I'm going to go over in my project panel, and I am going to hold down the control, and I'm going to select all of my movie files, because it's also put my sequence files over here too, but I just want the movie files. And I'm going to right-click here. And when I right-click, it says speed and duration. So I can go in the speed and duration and change this to 25%. Now it matches my target output, right? I hit OK, and it's made all of these clips slow motion for me so that the playback matches. Now I can take them and drop them to my timeline. I just say keep existing settings. I like the settings I put in there. But now, as you can see, you've got everything slow motion. Hang on, let me mute this because I'm hitting this M button right here on my audio track because I'm not going to use any of this audio. Especially for something for a website and audio, something we'll talk about a little bit later. But you see there, doesn't that look a lot better?
Yeah, you can start to see the slow-mo without any screen tearing or any of the action going on. There was a question earlier, and maybe because there's a little bit of camera movement here, Laura asked, what would you recommend for camera stabilization and vibration reduction when shooting wildlife?
Great question. I do like that a lot of the lenses have much better vibration reduction. The mirrorless cameras, along with mirrorless lenses, have crazy amounts of stabilization when paired together. I'm more of a video monopod fan. This was back at the beginning of my journey into video, so I shot all this handheld, which is kind of a little bit crazy, but that's sometimes what you have. And, if you happen to be somewhere like Alaska or somewhere where a bee starts hovering in front of your camera, you may not have time to set up those tripods. So I do have a tripod. I have a Manfrotto carbon tripod that's actually got my camera on it today. And then I like the monopods because I can move a lot quicker. And I find that I can pivot and photograph the wildlife a lot quicker. And the last campaign I just did for Nikon, I used a tripod and a monopod for pretty much everything. So I'm moving in that direction.
That's a great question, Laura, and keep it up, chat. Keep sending us questions.
So we do have this little, all these icons here, which has the razor tool. I use the razor tool a lot because one of the things that I find with video is I'm constantly just taking time to cut it. Like that's what I'm doing majority of the time is I have a very short attention span. I shoot days and days of film for like a 3-minute piece, but a lot of it is chopping it up and just really cutting out as much as you don't need. And here, I think my favorite part was right around here where you see, right, I liked that, where that one paw came in, right? So I'm going to go back to that on the timeline, and I'm going to chop it by using this razor tool and just clicking on the timeline there. Right? And then right when it stops, right when that foot lands, I'm going to click it again. So I just wanted that one foot landing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to the selection tool. I'm going to click this selection and I am going to hit the delete button. Just get rid of all of that, right? Because this is what I do. There was one other clip, and you have to go through this on your own time and kind of find the spots that you like. I really liked that back leg walking. So I'm going to just cut there. Cut at the beginning, cut at the end, and then I'm going to go back to my selection tool and I'm going to delete that. So I've got that next step. And that's all I really want with the bear in the water here. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to select this and I'm going to delete that. All right, so now the next clip is another bear in water, but it's wider. So I might get one shot. Let me see, where do I like it? I kind of kept going down and up with my exposures, as you can see, because I
Hmm.
really wanted that silhouette.
There were concerns for your safety, asking how close were you on that last set of clips?
I had a 500mm lens and a Bear Expert with me.
Oh,
So I am a big advocate of hiring experts that will help make sure that I'm not, oh, I like that clip right there. That's good. So I'm just going to, you can also do the razor tool, or you can drag the end of the clip to where it is on the blue line. So now I've got these 3 clips that have the tight of the legs and then kind of a wider shot. So now wherever I drag and drop this on the timeline is where it's going to be placed. And one of the things that I like is you can right click on empty space and click this ripple delete
yes.
and get rid of all of this negative space. So now I've got a little bit of a sequence starting where it goes from the tight shot to the loose shot to the tight shot. Okay, so it's starting to kind of work together a little bit, right? And whenever you're out filming, I highly recommend trying to get closer and looser shots and different angles because you're going to need them for clipping. So a lot of it is moving around. This was one of my other favorite moments. Like these bears were in the mist in the background and they were fighting. And I decided to focus in on this grass because I liked the shadow of the fight. I thought it was kind of cool. So that's where that ends for me. But I really liked the beginning. I like when that bear lunges up right there. So I'm going to start this. I'm going to hit my back arrow. Let me know if I need to, if I'm going too slow, too fast. I want to
No,
make
you're
sure
good.
that
You're good.
this is good for
Uh,
everybody.
this clip is amazing, by the way. I actually watched this one several times and was like, is this composited? Is there some trickery going on here? It was really nice.
It was funny. There were so many photographers out there, but people were scared of the mist. And a lot of times when
Oh
situations are
man.
a little bit crazy, that's when you get the most
Hmm.
unique footage. So keep shooting through the bad weather and things like that and just see what you can do with it, you know?
I took a few photography classes when I was in college, and waking up early, finding a misty, foggy morning it was like a godsend. Like it was perfect. I was like,
Yeah,
this is
right?
it. This is why I'm doing this. Let's go.
Oh, right. So I'm just kind of cutting this up as we're talking, if that's all right. And I
Absolutely.
love this is the part that I love. I didn't like this bear that was kind of being boring, but right here is the money shot, right when the bear gets in and bites the other bear's butt. Yeah, that's my shot. I love that shot. All right. And as you can see, like another thing is to be completely honest, like I didn't know a lot of what I was doing back then, and my colors aren't as great as they are. It was really misty. It was really ugly colors, and which is another reason why, you know what? Let's make these contrasty black and whites, which is really easy to do. You
Hmm.
know. So here's another bear fight. I've got the board bear in there. Let's see if we got a shot. Yeah, here we go. So let's see if we've got a shot of them fighting. Yeah, I think it was this one that I liked, where it goes up. Yep, I think that's a cool ending shot. What do you guys think? All right, so we'll go with that. And I'm just cutting things down. That's what I'm constantly doing is cut. Oops. You can always control Z things or Apple. What is it on a Mac? It's not control, it's Apple's. Apple Z to undo on a Mac.
Uh, yeah, Command Z or Control Z.
Okay. Command or control. All right, so now we've got the clips that we want to keep. I'm going to right click and ripple delete and keep things nice and close. But now we want to play with the order. I like this bear mist shot because I think that it's a really cool establishing shot. So I'm going to take that and pull that to the very front. I'm going to keep my 3 bear walking shots. And then I'm going to go into the fight and into the end that's that. So this is kind of my sequence that I've got going here. And I'm just going to ripple delete and make everything nice and tight. So yeah, and a lot of times I'm going in and making the clips. I can expand this timeline by using this, so I can see by bringing the 2 dots together is what I call it. I'm sure there's probably something
Yes.
more technical, but I call it bringing the dots together. So you bring the dots together, you expand your timeline. If you bring them apart, you know, uh, you make your timeline smaller. I'm dyslexic. Let me know if I got that
No,
right.
you're.
Okay. Because I would probably honestly make these clips shorter because of my super short attention span. I still think everything is too long. All right. So now I want to make everything kind of work together, which is really cool because let me move us. I can go over
So
here.
at this point, you have these clips kind of narrowed down, are you trying to like just do what looks cool, or are you trying to find a narrative in just a few clips, or what is the process right here?
Or for this, it's all eye candy. It's eye
Okay.
candy for Instagram, eye candy for the website. But I am thinking of sequence. I'm thinking of establishing shot, which I like the grass in the foreground. I'm thinking of the walking in. Like, I can easily use this on a website, like get people intrigued because the bear's walking in, go to the drama, and then end with the fight drama. So I find that I like pairing emotions and kind of taking people on a little bit of a roller coaster with, have that intense moment and then have the release, or have, something. If I have a funny shot, a lot of times I'll put it after really intense shots just to kind of like, I think of like Spielberg and dinosaurs running after the car,
Right.
and then you see the window and it says objects may be closer than they appear. Like that little bit of comedy to break intensity is like, and that's the great thing about doing this work is whenever I watch movies and film, I'm like, I'm researching.
Hmm. Sure.
I
Yeah.
am I'm learning.
Absolutely.
Yes, I need to go to the movies tonight. It'll be an educational trip, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
But you can find inspiration from all over with that. And when I started getting into filmmaking, I started like watching a lot of nature documentaries. I started looking at a lot of even comic books and how different shots are established in a comic book from, Japanese manga is great. You see that establishing shot, that detail shot, and trying to break things apart. And I honestly, like, I had a teacher years and years ago, and I do this to a lot of my students, that made me find things I was passionate about watching on TV or something. And then they made me reverse storyboard it. So pause every single
Hmm.
break and draw a picture. I mean,
Yeah.
my drawing is horrible, so it was like stick figure here, stick figure frog, stick figure. It was funny, but it really helped me understand the breakdown of how things are working. And there's things in this that I would say don't work quite yet. Like, I don't like that these shots are too close. And when you go from here with this running shot to the next running shot, it just looks clippy. So
Hmm.
I actually have something that I like doing that may, I don't do this in my own photos, but I take a few more liberties with video. Then, and one of the things that I do in video sometimes is I go over on this effects panel and I go to video effects here and I go to transform and then I go to horizontal flip. So I'll flip the last run. So now it's going this way and then it runs that way. And now the clips seem to, in my opinion, they work better together, having that run one direction and run the
Hmm.
other instead of it just looking. And I do that a lot where I clip things back and forth, which it's funny because I don't reflect like for anything. I've been doing some stories that have gone online for National Geographic and stuff like that, and I would never flip a photo. Like there's very, especially like I would never flip a photo for a story I was doing for them or something like that. Like there's, I have like a bunch of digital art that I'll play with while I play with reflections. And I've worked with Paco on streams and shown people that. But at the same time, like video, I find that, people take more liberties
Yeah.
flipping
So it's a
footage.
little looser with how you treat some of the clips, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with like things having to like, I don't
Well,
know.
it's kind of like you get, I mean, when you're discussing or talking about going to movies and doing research, you get all of those tips from those movies. How many times have you seen, a shot in a movie and you're like, they reversed that or they did this? They're just trying to tell a story, and that's all you are too, I
Yeah,
guess. So,
exactly. I have not. And I mean, it could just be like my limited time in the field. I've not encountered any field in film or video where flipping was unacceptable.
mhm.
I just haven't. And it may just be, yeah, like I said, maybe one day I'll encounter that with some of the stuff that I'm working on. But yeah, for now, I feel like, yeah, I flip footage. I'll admit it right here. I flip my
There
footage.
you
Um, All right. And so now one of the things that you also have to do is you have to kind of like make your color match. And this was one of the
go. Hmm.
situations where I was like, wow, I shot this high def. I don't have 4K. I didn't have 10-bit. I didn't have any of that stuff. So it would be, and I was really inexperienced when I started doing these. And so I decided to just make this all black and white. I love black and white. It's a nice feel. The color doesn't add to the narrative here. I don't think it does.
Hmm.
In my opinion, it doesn't. So we're going to talk real quick about how I edited that. And I did that all with this luminary color. Okay. So over on the right side, you'll see luminary color. And this has, the thing that I love about Adobe products is there's things that I've learned from Lightroom and Photoshop and ways that I've developed my own editing, that moving from stills to motion, or, there's familiarity without me ever having gone in this before. I click on basic correction. And look, I've got all the same, not exactly the same, but I've got my exposure, my contrast, my shadows, my blacks. It looks very similar to the interface in Lightroom. You got your temperature, your tint, saturation. So I'm like, oh, awesome. I'm used to editing photos. So I found that, simple things like for black and white, for me, I always just drop my saturation. And I love adding my contrast. I love popping my whites just a little bit and popping my blacks because I like even more contrast. And I'm a huge fan of a vignette. I put a vignette on just about everything. So vignette darkens the edges of the screen, and that will help keep people's eyes inside the frame because it got that little dark. So now as you see, yeah, that's kind of how I like the shadow shot. So here, this bear paw, I'm going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to go to basic correction. I'm going to drop that saturation. I a lot of times bring things darker and then bring my highlights up. It's just kind of one of my editing techniques. So I'm just going to play with this. Now, okay, you guys remember that I took the front paw walking and the back paw walking from the same clip. So these were shot with the same exposures on my camera. They look exactly the same. So I can just right click on this clip and copy it. And when I click on this clip here, I can right click again and say paste attributes. Okay. And you can select what you're pasting, if you're changing your time or doing anything, or if you have a flip or things like that. I only want the color selected. I do that, and all of a sudden I've got the same black and white, which is great, right?
Yeah.
This one was a little bit darker, so I'm going to have to pop the exposures just a bit. But as you can see, I'm just playing with it the same way I would in Lightroom. And then the sparkle run, my favorite. Do the same thing. I'm going to do black and white, add some contrast. I am going to do my exposure up a little bit. I'm going to add my blacks to make those silhouettes really nice and sharp. Let me pull the highlights. I want a lot of contrast. Let's see, how does that look? That looks pretty consistent. I think that looks good. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to copy. I'm going to right click here and go to paste, and you can select a whole bunch of these clips, so I could select all of them if I wanted them all edited the same way. I'm going to actually, now that I look at it, this one needs to be shortened. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this, pull it to the right click and ripple delete. I noticed it was a little bit long for me. Same thing here. I'm going to go in and pull the saturation down, contrast. All right. So let's see, how does this look? Does this look all right? And, I'd probably spend a lot more time chopping it down even more and more and more. But right now it's a 22-second piece, which is great for Instagram, great for a website. Yeah, and I think this would be a really cool little. Now, another thing that I like doing is over on the effects side is we can very easily add transitions. So how I pulled down video effects to do my horizontal flip earlier? I can pull down video transitions and do a dissolve. And I like adding a dip to black. So it's pretty easy. You just do a drag to drop. And now at the end of this intense fight, it goes to black, right? Fades out. I like a fade out. And I can pull this. All I have to do is, with my selection tool selected, I can go to the right of this dip to black and I can move it and make it longer or shorter so I can have a bigger or shorter dip out, right? And I can even take different transitions. You've got dissolves that cross between, the first clip and the second clip. You've got all sorts of different video transitions that you can use according to your own aesthetics. But I think this is pretty good for a first little clip, and I'm going to show you guys. Yeah, so now I'm just going to go to File and Export Media. And I love, it's been only recently that there's all these, really a ton of more options here. I was so excited.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh,
Absolutely.
So cool.
Tons of options.
So cool. So you can go in here, and you got to name whatever you're going to name, and I'm going to name it, KO Bears. KO's my initials. And you can right here tell it where the location that you want it to be saved. I'm under desktop Adobe Slow Motion, which is what I'm doing today. And now you can go to, this is match source, which, I just want to match the sequence. I put together a good sequence. I want it to export at that sequence. But it's really cool because you can, if you want to downsize it, I wouldn't recommend upsizing. See this 2160 is 4K, and this is not shot in 4K. So you can't just make it 4K and have it work. Like, you can't just add pixels that aren't there. So anything
if we could.
If we could, that would be quite amazing, right? Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I went shopping for a TV the other day, and they were talking about how it upsizes 4K to 8K, and I'm like, I don't know if that works, but
just don't put that on the bullet point for trying to sell that television.
I don't know where are you getting these numbers, but it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not going to name the name of that company because I'm not sure if that was accurate, but anything that's 1080 or below would be great, like 720 if you're looking for something lower. Maybe you need something smaller for your website. But check this out. More presets, right? You can put in here like Facebook, if I can type. And it's got all the presets already for Facebook. It's got presets already for it doesn't have Instagram, but Facebook and Instagram. I do Facebook and then I move that over to Instagram, which, this full HD tends to be great for Instagram for me. But yeah, you can click on one of these presets and hit OK. And then when you export it, it's going to have it optimized for Facebook. Right? How cool is that?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and you're right. These are, they've been in there a while, but just adding more and more with every update. It's always fun to see what they've concluded when you go to export something after an update.
Yeah, exactly. And they've even got instant upgrade or instant integration with your Facebook, with your Behance, with your YouTube, all these different channels, which is it's making it so easy. I do one final check and I look at my output, make sure it's at that 29.97, make sure everything looks good here. And then you can hit export and it's going to make that video for you. I'm not going to hit export. I don't need to make this video, but if you hit export, it'll do it.
We trust that it would work.
Exactly. So I'm just gonna...
There was a question about when you go on these outdoor shoots, you had mentioned having an expert with you. Do you also always or sometimes go alone or always in groups, or how does that work?
Not for bears. So bears, there's a group, there's an expert, there's, somebody that is making sure. And the last 2 campaigns I've done, I've made sure to consult with wildlife experts. And I did last 3, I've had wildlife experts right on call the whole time. Like I did one for B&H and we hired a guide the whole time. I did one for Nikon and we hired a conservation biologist just to make sure that we had little to no impact on the wildlife. It's something that's very important. And my last campaign for Nikon was on birds and I did my research. I was calling every place and I'm like, all right, you've got a hummingbird feeder. How often do you change it? What do you do? I was so... I went to the Audubon Society's website. I looked at all the ethical ways of having bird feeders, and I drilled them before I supported any business that might not be treating the animals correctly.
Oh, nice.
So I made sure everything was, and I think that when you're going to parks too, it's really nice because the National Park Service and a lot of times the Forest Service and different organizations that protect wild spaces, they have information on their website about approaching wildlife, how far you can stand from wildlife, what, what's an appropriate distance. And there's a beautiful way to do research and make sure everything that you're doing isn't hurting or impacting the wildlife. So that was a great question. Great question.
And that's a great practice, definitely. So what do you have planned for us next? What's going on?
We're going to make more of these. We're going to do baby steps. Is that okay? We got a lot of time today. So my timeline. Yeah.
Go as fast or as slow as you'd like, and we'll set the pace.
Wonderful.
If you're just coming in here, we are with wildlife photographer, videographer, filmmaker, Kristi Odom. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome. I will try and get your questions through our moderator, Cody Bear, today. We'll be trying to funnel your questions from YouTube over to us at Behance. If you want to join us on Behance, you are more than welcome. Behance.net/live. All right, let's see what
Hey,
is
Cody
next.
Bear. We got bears all around. We're going to do another bear clip. We're going to do a shorter
Yes.
bear clip, but we're going to do a color one. So super
Oh,
short, and then we'll move on from bears. Doing the next clip after this will be a hummingbird clip that will work for TikTok and Instagram. So we'll do a short clip that does the same thing we just did, but it deals with color. So I'm going to double click here on my import media. I'm going to go into my folder. See, these are all the folders I have. I have color, I have a swordbill hummingbird, I have storms, and oh, do you guys want to see this? Okay, because I made this for you guys. I can show this to you real quick before we get into our next one. This is a basically recording of my camera settings. So if you guys are curious how I set up my camera, I made you a little film, not a film, but just, yeah, of what I'm doing now.
Everybody.
Oh no, I did a video recording of this stuff. So it should move so you can see the eye tracking and everything. So I set my camera up for the stuff I'm doing now. I'm doing everything 4K, which is 2160, which is, 2160 by that 3840, which is the 4K setting. So when you see in your camera, you'll see all these different settings. Anything that's got these faster frame rates, 120 or 60, those are things that you can move down to slow motion. Obviously, the 120 you can make 25%, whereas for a 30 frames per second output, and the 60 you can make down 50%, so you can speed up time or slow down time. And if you see the 1080 next to the 120, that's giving you a high definition video at 120 frames per second. One of the great things about shooting in 4K, even if you're not making 4K, even if you're just doing stuff for Instagram or Facebook or your website, you can crop in, which is lovely. I could crop in super tight to my footage and get even more details, because if you're capturing at 2160 and then you're creating something that's 1080, you've got all this extra cropping ability, and you can get details of that toucan's eyes.
And that goes right along with Cody. There's a question from YouTube. Do you worry about horizontal or vertical for Facebook/Instagram? So that probably answers some of that.
Yeah, if I'm shooting in 4K, I don't have to worry about it. But if I'm starting, I need to embrace TikTok more, so I need to do more vertical filming. And I keep telling myself I should do more vertical filming.
So hard.
I don't. It's so funny because right when I got into photography, vertical was the thing because people wanted magazine covers. They were all thinking of these I want to be on the cover of Nat Geo or Rolling Stone or whatever. So people were shooting a lot for vertical, and then we went to an era where it was horizontal all the way. You look at competitions, and I would say 95% of winners were all horizontal images, and we're reaching an era now where we're going back to the vertical, which I think is I'm wait, what happened to the last decade that we were all about horizontal? Oh my gosh. But
and film is always usually horizontal or extremely horizontal. So you kind of, I think anything goes now as long as it works for the format you're putting it on.
A couple things about my camera setting. I do 10-bit color now, which gives me a lot more information in my color. You can also, with the Z9, shoot in RAW, which is a RAW photograph, and it has a ton of color. So it's really exciting that you can now do that internally in the Z9. When I was doing this shoot, that update hadn't been applied yet, so hadn't been released, let me say. So I'm shooting constantly at 10-bit. You can shoot at 8-bit. And a lot of times with video, it's good to kind of start simple, especially if you want to see if your computer can handle the files and things like that. But when you start getting into, oh my gosh, I want more color in my files, a lot of times I would recommend looking into 10-bit color, or I haven't really started let me rephrase that. I've just started in RAW, and it's glorious. It does take a lot of power on that computer. But so yeah, I'm shooting constantly at 120 at 4K. I did make a mistake here. I shouldn't keep it at auto white balance because that might flip back and forth. I don't recommend this. I don't know why I did that here. But yeah, and I've got my autofocus on full-time autofocus with an animal eye tracking on wide area large, I'm assuming there's a lot of photographers in the audience. And you can see here the animal eye tracking will pick up the toucan's eye, and it's keeping that with a full-time autofocus in focus. I had a lens that had a built-in teleconverter, which is why I was able to clip from this to this. So I was able to like use that. And that's what the TC is here, is the built-in teleconverter. But yeah, wide area with the animal eye tracking, all time full. So this is, and I shoot with picture control, just neutral. So this is how I have my camera set up. And you can see here, the other toucan comes in
There's
and
a couple of questions. Oh, look at that. Nabbed.
a little fight there.
Yeah. There's a question about what NL means, top right of the screen.
NL is like a natural light. It's like it's the picture control, and I think it's picture control. It's just like kind of a very baseline. Like when I'm doing photos, a lot of times I'm doing a vivid. As you can see in this image, it's not as vivid of colors because I don't want anything to be too punchy because it's hard to pull things back, but it's easy to enhance color in post. So a lot of times I'm shooting at standard or NL with my picture control just to kind of have this neutral, less intense, if that makes sense. So that's what that is there. And I'm constantly like, one of the other ways to start with your shutter speed is to think about like twice your frame rate for shutter speed. So me shooting 120 frames per second, which you can see here, I'm shooting at 1/250th of my shutter speed, which it's funny because a lot of people ask me, they're like, oh, you can take stills while you're doing video and, all this stuff. And, are you doing that? And I'm like, no, actually, because I like different shutter speeds for photos than I do for video. So I'm constantly either on photo mode or video mode, but I'm not mixing the two like I know you can in your cameras. Great question, though. Oh, you can see, yeah. And then, here's where you're going to see all this footage. But I thought I had other clips in here. Oh, yeah. Look at these two. And it's cool because, yeah, so you see the little eye tracking work, and it goes back and forth when this one moved its head, which was pretty cool.
The eye tracking is assisting with focus, or is it just?
It is assisting with focus. Okay. So it's keeping that full-time auto, and it's really nice because like video used to be so complicated with having to have focus rings and having to like, and the cameras are getting so good that like with the animal eye tracking, you can just lock in and it'll stay there and stay in focus. And you can also control, with a lot of cameras, you can control the speed of how quickly it moves. Like say this moves from bird 1 to bird 2. Like see, it's gonna, if this, the other bird, if it looked back, it would have. But you can control the speed of that. So you can make it like focus really fast back and forth or focus really slow back and forth. And that's another artistic aesthetic that people have that's, might be different. But cool. Yeah, so do you guys like my little video I made for you? And this is another feature that I use a lot for video, which is I put my camera on manual. Like here, there's no eyes. It's really hard to focus. So I put my focus on manual, and I use what's called focus peaking. And what that does is it throws this, different colors. You can choose your color. I like blue. But you can manually focus, and it'll have a blue light on what's in focus in the camera. So if you're doing like a hard silhouette like this through the snow with the texture, you can make sure that your image is in focus by using focus peaking. So that's one of my other favorite modes I wanted to show you. This I wasn't even shooting at 4K. I was shooting at I was shooting this at, I was shooting it at 4K, but I was shooting at 30. So I wasn't shooting it at 120 frames per second. I was shooting it just at the 30 frame rate. So I didn't have to, Anyways, but I made that for you guys so you can
that's a cool
see some camera settings. Inside my camera. Nice. All right. But we don't need that. So I just, was excited to share that. Okay.
We have another tech question. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the advantages of Nikon Z collection compared to Sony Alpha or Canon? I guess if you've used those, you may be able to.
I have not used the Sony systems, so okay. I'm not the best person for an answer to that. All I know is that I am obsessed with my gear, and I'm pretty excited with the stuff I'm producing with it. I'm a Nikon fan through and through.
Awesome.
And it's really interesting because if you are curious about those things, like a lot of times, like you can rent gear. I highly recommend if you're thinking about making a camera switch to rent gear, play with it, play with it a lot. A camera switch is a big deal. I made a camera switch about 10 years ago, and I will never regret that or look back. But it was definitely a big change and everything like that. But it ultimately helped my it helped me out because I found the right system for me.
Nice.
So,
Explore your options and then choose. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So this, we're just going to do a really short, this was actually shot, not with a mirrorless, this was shot with a, I think this was my D850. And as you can see when I pulled it in, it already says 29.97. I did shoot this in slow motion, but a lot of times like the cameras will have these automatic slow motion functions. So they'll have like, if you see 30 times 4 or 30 times 5, those are slow motion functions that are shooting at the 120 frames, but they're already doing that slowing down for you. So when you hit that playback, you're going to get 30 frames per second. The 30 times 4 slows it down to 25%. The times 5 slows it down to 20%. So those numbers are, you know, if you don't want to do that, right click, change your speed duration. If you want it to be a little easier, a lot of times you can bypass some steps. I did this some of the first time I put my camera on slow motion. I don't do that anymore because when you capture things at 120 frames per second, you're also capturing audio at real time. And a lot of times I'm pulling bird calls and I'm pulling different ambient noises from nature. And if I was to do that on a setting that automatically slowed down the footage, that did the times 4 times 5, you'd get the long, distorted, you know, calls, and
Yeah.
you wouldn't get that really nice chirp. And one little secret that I do is, not really secret, I found that if I've got like a bird chirping or calling or whatever, I play that back in real time, but the footage in slow motion, and it actually doesn't look weird, which I'm like, that's super cool. And one of the things, you got to make sure you always get the right bird calls to the right birds because people will notice.
Yeah,
like, I think it's so funny, the movies that have the big eagles and you hear this big eagle sound, but that's not what
screech. Yeah.
That's not what an eagle sounds like. An eagle has like a totally different sound. A lot of the movies pair like a hawk screech with an eagle, and I'm like, what? Those don't match. But, you know, I don't think a lot of people notice that. There are people that notice it though. And yeah, so I like matching the correct bird songs.
If you post it, someone will point it out. If it's wrong, someone will definitely point it out.
So I pulled these 3 clips in. They're already 29.97, so I don't have to do anything there. And, you know, I could technically just, on this circumstance, just drag and drop, because the default sequence, like if you drag and drop, you make your new... let me see. Am I not dragging it? All right. I'm going to just make my sequence how I normally do it. New sequence. Cool. And when you're in here and you're doing this, like say the frame size, I want to, on the horizontal, I want this 1920 again by 1080. So when you have a setting that you like here, I'm going to use that 709 again. You can also save this as a preset. And that's what I've done. So I can save this as, you know, 1080 KO. It's my normal 1080 KO for my initials. And I can put a little description in there if I want. But now it's going to pop up under sequence presetting, and I can just click on this, and I can create, so I don't have to go through all those steps again, right?
Yeah, anything that makes the process more efficient is huge.
Exactly. So this is a super short clip of a bear and a waterfall. One of the things that I've noticed that makes really compelling slow motion is whenever you have like one of the elements, you know, wind, water, earth, you know, like dirt coming up, like elements works so well with slow motion. So whenever I have something that I can use that involves an element with wildlife, like it's just, that's like gold in my book, you know? So yeah, being able to photograph bears around water or by waterfalls, this is at Brooks Falls, is like, kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm going to just scrub through this clip really quick. And I apologize if my terms aren't completely accurate. Like I said, I'm really, for the most part, self-taught with this stuff. So a lot of times, like, people use the terminology. I'm like, what does that do? But Wade, you're probably like, oh my God,
It's
who am I
no,
teaching
no,
this?
it's absolutely fine. It's weird though, watching you slow things down because most of my experience with using Premiere Pro uh, is has been speeding things up for time lapse for artwork. So I'm like going the
Yeah.
opposite direction, but this is fascinating.
Which is really funny because I'm actually going to talk about that if we have time today. Because I find that every time I do a slow motion piece, I mix in time lapse, and I think that
Oh,
that's such a fun transition. So the storm clip I have that I'm working on for with a time lapse right now, I'm going to show you guys real quickly how I make a time lapse and how you can put that in with your slow motion.
oh,
So
excellent. I may
it's
learn a
all
thing or
about
two.
altering time, right? Speeding it up,
Yeah.
slowing it down. I feel like a magician.
Oh, there's a question about sound. Do you use an external mic when recording audio when filming wildlife?
Great question. I actually do because I'm clipping on and off a lot. So I've got a little Zoom, and so we're constantly doing. It's actually called a Zoom. We're recording a lot of audio with the Zoom, and to be completely honest, I'm not the best with audio, and a lot of times I'm, purchasing bird sounds and licensing nature sounds, and I'm doing a lot of that as well on my final pieces. But I'm actually really impressed with my Z9 because it's caught some really beautiful sounds that I've actually cut and incorporated in. So my Z9 campaign, I have some pikas like doing their little chirps that were all from the in-camera mic. So sometimes, like I'm finding that I'm able to do things. Having a shotgun mic on top
Hmm.
of my camera helps tremendously. So yeah, a lot of times I'm doing the Zoom and the shotgun, and I think as I'm starting to get more and more video jobs, that's going to be my next. My next investment is to have somebody separate for audio because audio is
Yeah,
a world on
yeah,
its own, and I'm like,
and
oh my
it
gosh.
and it can definitely make it definitely increases or produce makes the production value. That's what I'm looking for. The production value so much more such more an experience.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure, for sure. All right, as you
do
see,
you
I'm
have
just
a Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry. I was going to ask one last audio question. Do you have a go-to first? Like if you've used an external mic versus a camera mic, do you check one first versus the other first?
I like the externals. I do like the
Okay.
zooms. Yeah, and it's also just because I'm stopping and starting my clips a lot, and I like the audio to be seamless.
Hmm.
And I'm also, I do change my exposures a lot, and I do move my buttons around a lot. And so sometimes, like, if I've got that click, 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 like in the middle
Oh
of
yeah,
a great
yeah.
audio bit, it's like, no. And,
That makes sense.
okay, I'm going to be totally transparent here.
Let's do it. Let's get into
I
it.
I hold my breath when I take photos, and so and then I gasp, and I a lot of times will have like my camera audio just be like this really ugly like, and I'm like, how do I need to like
you
take a class and learn how to properly breathe for doing filmmaking
you
because the
you
amount
have to
of
make a TikTok of just your breathing now. It has to be
it's
done.
so bad. It's so bad. I'm like, oh my god, that audio clip would have been epic if I wasn't freaking gasping like I need to get back into shape. Like, it's so embarrassing. But I don't get that on the Zoom. Like, it's just because I don't know. I get so excited that I stop breathing a lot when I'm taking pictures, and then like all of a sudden I'll be like, I gotta take a breath right now, and then it's just this huge gasp, and I'm like,
That's amazing.
it's horrible, right? It's
No, no.
horrible. I'm like, I
It's
don't
more
know.
content. Everything's content, so you can just use that later for something.
People like vulnerability. I should just put it in,
There
right?
it is. That's right.
So I'm finding these little clips in here, and as you see, I'm just using that razor tool. I'm cutting and deleting things, right? And I've just got a couple of clips because I just want to show you this first because our next one, we are going to talk a little bit more about some of the things you guys are asking. So here's some of my favorite clips of the waterfall. This is where the bear catches the fish. I'm going to break these up. I might have the fish being caught at the very end. So I'm going to do my ripple deletes. And this way it's like you've got the kind of the wider, the tighter, the movement. Super easy. Right? Nice little clip. And I've used this one, I think, on my website. But now, same sort of thing. I pick one that's really easy. I do the luminary color. Am I saying that right? Luminary?
Lumetri. Lumetri.
Lumetri.
I
Lumetri.
think it's Lumetri. I said it wrong when you asked me. It's, yeah, Lumetri.
What? Lumetri. Lumetri color. Okay. I'm going to do my contrast. And this one, I might add just a touch of saturation. And you've got this great white balance tool. This is actually, I got this pretty right in camera, but you can click on this and click on something that should be white, and it'll balance it'll balance the image. This was, yeah, like pretty spot on. So I like this. It's got more contrast. It looks good to me. Do the same thing. I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy. Now I'm going to click on all the other clips. I'm going to put the dots together.
There you go. Shrink the timeline. Yeah.
Like hit this one.
I like it. I like it.
And I'm so like, oh my gosh. People are probably like, oh my gosh, who is this woman? What is she doing? I'm holding down the shift button and I'm clicking on multiple of these. I'm right clicking, paste. I'm going to paste the color on all of those. And now all of a sudden, all of these colors match, right? So we got a little sequence in color.
Oh, nice.
So this was just a super short one, but the next one is going to be more intense.
I want to see this last clip.
Oh, catching the bear?
Yeah.
Catching the fish?
Was that fish really even trying? Like, it kind of like jumped in its mouth, right?
Right, yeah. And it's interesting because this sort of clip would be great for a website without a fade at the end, because I can get it to loop and it'll just go straight back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's just like boom, 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 straight back to the beginning, and it'll just keep looping.
That gull, I believe it was a gull flying in front. That's like catching that. That's perfect.
I was pretty happy with that. I was pretty happy with that for sure. So it could be a lot simpler. And if I did want to like take this middle clip, and if I go, if I take this middle clip and let's see, I'm going to go to workspaces. I'm going to go to my editing workspace. All right. So my editing workspace, I've got all these effects controls that came up over here. So say this one, I wanted to zoom in. Now zooming in, you do lose quality if you haven't unless you're doing things like shooting at 4K and things like that. But you can do all sorts of things where you adjust your scale so that you can go from different clips or whatever. So you can adjust that scale, and then I made a keyframe there. So, and we'll talk about keyframing, but I think keyframing might be kept until tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so now it's 120. I just blew it up, so yeah, there we go. And I can take this and change where it's sitting, if it's higher, if it's lower, all that good stuff. And, I don't want to talk about keyframing just yet. I can keep it simple. Keep it super simple. So there's my little bear, right? So now I'm going to close this project and save changes. No, I don't want to save the changes. We're going to do a new project. And we're going to make a sword build hummingbird video for Instagram and TikTok. And we're going to add music this time. So each of these adds a step, if that's all right. Am I being too slow, Wade? Am I being too simple?
This is good. I think,
okay.
We're getting all of the different medias and formats we can output this for. I think that's awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. So I can select them here in this panel instead of dragging instead of doing it. So I did that at the beginning. I'm going to do my project name as Sword Adobe. For the sword build.
For those of you just tuning in, welcome. How's it going? We are with Kristi Odom, and she is walking us through her processes for creating slow motion video for social media and various other platforms.
Oh my goodness, I'm happy you guys are all here. And this is getting recorded, so people can play it back and watch it later if they're right.
Absolutely. That's right. You can watch a replay at any time on Behance or YouTube.
So that'll be really cool. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to new sequence. And I am going to, I'm going to go ahead and this was actually all shot at 4K. Okay. So I am going to make a 4K sequence here. And then I'm going to make additional sequences for when I cut it down so that I've got one master 4K sequence. And then I can make TikTok and Instagram sequences after that, and then I can cut and paste what I've done. And I'll show you about how I do all this. All right, so the frame size for 4K is 3840 and everything has to match what it has to be smaller or equal to what it was shot at. You can't just make it 4K. you know.
Right. Yeah. You can't make up the numbers at that point.
Except for some TV salesman thinks you can, but that's okay. And here's like, if I was doing a bigger project and I wanted a little bit more depth to my color, I might go here, but for the sake of this, I'm going to keep it at 709. And, you know, if I was doing something a little bit more, you know, for the sake of a bigger project, I might click on maximizing down here. But just because it probably won't play back nice and pretty for you guys, I'm not going to do that right now. Yeah, no, it's so funny. It's like when I got all excited, I'm like, oh my God, look at what all the cameras are doing. Look at these file sizes. And then I'm like, look at my computer. I had to upgrade like everything at home too, because it's like, oh my God.
Absolutely.
I had to like, yeah, so there's that. So now I've got my new sequence. This was all shot at the 120. So I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to speed duration, bring that down to the correct frame rate here. And now we've got all these 4K videos that you can see. How is this good? How is this looking on your end, Wade? Is it just a little jittery or?
It looks fine to me.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any real jittering or anything, so.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to go through. And one thing about birds, I will tell you, a lot of times they do something right after they poop. So it pooped, and then all of a sudden it's going to do the stretch, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So don't ever take your camera off an animal right after they poop, because it's like some of my favorite shots are like, is that okay to say on Adobe Live? Am I going to get in trouble for this?
No, that is a very precise pro tip. Like, that is honing into the core of shooting, photography for animals and wildlife.
All right, so now we're going to do the same sort of thing. I'm use a razor, and I'm going to use the selection tool, and I'm going to pull the good bits out, and I'm just going to chop this like crazy. This hummingbird has the largest, I think, bill to body ratio out of the. I'm going to turn my music off. We don't need that.
I was going to ask, is that normal?
No, super unusual. And like, oh my gosh, look at this. You gotta watch this when the tongue comes out. It's like, so I think, that's where it really goes out. That's the one I want right there. Yes, that is the tongue shot.
Does it completely go out of frame?
That's no,
amazing.
I think it's so cool, right? Such a we have so many cool. I think it goes further the next time. This is the one I want right here. There it is. Yep.
Oh wow. Yep.
And you can always like make these, if you've cut too much, you can just drag the end of your clip. I might have to pull the dots together. I told myself I wanted a class that everybody could use. If they've never used Premiere before, they can start shooting these slow motion. So I hope
this is great.
I know I'm not using the videography terminology and all that good stuff. All right, this one I remember the bird flies off. So I want to get that flight. Okay. And this might be a good ending for my swordbill clip, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm doing my cutting. All right, so this was one of my favorites. There was a hummingbird feeder that I found out that they cleaned every day and everything was ethical because I went through all my bases, but it combines water, which is one of the elements, with a hummingbird. All right. So
were you pulling focus on this? Because it looked like you kind of racked back.
No, this was the camera. The camera caught it pretty quickly, though. This is slow motion, remember?
I thought it was like artistically done. I was like, oh, look at this.
No, that was...
Just take the credit. Yes, that was me.
Yeah, I did all that. Oh my gosh, I love this bird. Okay, so watch this. When the bird goes down in the feeder, this is so cool, and comes up, so right here, splashes.
Yeah.
That's what I want, but I want when I'm using a tripod here, you can kind of tell, like, by the movement being a little cleaner. See that tongue going in and out?
Yeah.
Kind of cool. So right...
Do you make, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just rambling. Just filling space.
Well, so was I. I was just going to say, do you make sound effects? Because I caught myself just making sound effects.
Did you? What sound effect would you put on this?
Oh, it was like sploosh or skadoosh or something. The water. I mean, don't get me doing sound effects. I mean,
Oh no, I think it's
it's
great.
hilarious.
We should be recording that. I think it was
Oh,
there
it's
was
recorded.
it. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so I want to go to the first one that splashed because where does the focus catch? The focus was right there. So and you can click the left and right arrow so you can see the exact moment. Like that's where I want it to start, right there. Okay.
Oh yeah, so you can hone in on the frame.
Yeah, where the focus caught the exact
Hmm.
frame. God, this bird is so pretty, isn't it? Pretty. I love that. And I use that in my campaign. That one, left to right. That was it. Just that. That's all I want. I don't even want this one anymore because that next one is better. So we'll use, and was there a good side tongue face? Oh, we got the tongue from the first one. But this was cool too because like I just liked watching I liked watching this beak. It was like it's just so cool, right?
I'm really entranced on the color by the color scheme, like the subtlety, but I don't know, the purples to greens.
It's the metallics are so pretty. I'm obsessed with hummingbirds. Like it's my newfound. Oh, that was it. That little left to right, just that clip there. I am slightly obsessed with hummingbirds. Yeah. So now we've got all these little clips. Now we got to think of an order. I think the flying off at the end is going to be the best ending. For an intro, I like the splash of the water. What do you guys think? Splash of the water for the beginning? Oh, yeah. So maybe we'll move
Let us
this
know.
to the
Let us
front.
know, chat. I think yes. I think that's a big
It's
yes.
a splash of the water to the. We'll do the stretch right before the fly off. How about that? So we'll do. Yeah. So we'll do splash of water to the moving of the head. Um, you don't want light clips next to each other, so I can't do this one next to this one unless I flip it. Remember how I was
Ooh,
flipping it
yeah.
before? I could flip it. Or I could move the stretch to a different spot. Okay. What do you guys think? Delete it or move it or flip it?
Well, let's see what it looks like, and then
Flipped. Oh, let's get my panel back. Where did my panel go? All right. Effects, video transitions. Oh, no, video effects. Transform, horizontal flip. So we'll flip that one. All right. So now it goes from that to the stretch over there. Yeah, I like the flip.
okay, yeah.
I don't want to lose it. Okay. So now I've got a fun little sequence, super short. But now, we're going to play a little bit with adding audio. Stretch. We're going to play with adding audio, and then we're going to cut it down for Instagram and TikTok. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Do you already have? Well, I'm gonna let you talk about how you select your music.
No
But I do
worries.
have a question. There's been a couple of questions about your computer hardware for being able to handle these, higher resolution clips. Is that something you know right off, or is I mean,
Yeah. So I've got like an Asus Studio Book right now that I'm actually able to do like 8K video editing
oh
in the
wow,
field with it. Like that sucker's fast.
nice,
It's like
yeah.
it's kind of ridiculous. I'm like, what magic is in this machine? And I actually did my last piece that had 4K and 8K footage while on the road, while on a laptop. So I'm super impressed with where computer technology is going. And yeah, really excited. So that's yeah. I've been a big fan of like the Asus laptops. I went from the ZenBook Pro Duo because of the extra 4K
Hmm.
monitor to now the Studio Book because I find the Studio Book is a little bit zippier, has a little better performance. So those have been my laptops of choice. It's nice too because I can like edit on the couch while watching TV. I'm like I never thought I would be at a period where I could like do video editing on a laptop.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
So I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm going to go to, I'm just going to double click down in my media. No, wait, I'll just go to, hang on, let me just add my media. Import. All right. And so I have a whole file called music. I will say I do license all my music from Triple Scoop Music. Adobe has an amazing library as well, but for these projects, I did use Triple Scoop. I'm going to pull these 3 songs in as well as my credit screen because I give them credit whenever I put their music in.
And what was that called again? Triple what?
Triple scoop. But it's really important that you license music when you put things online, or if you're doing Instagram or TikTok, you can use their music libraries, which is really quite convenient because you can use a lot more popular songs that way. But if you're doing something for your own website or anything like that, make sure your music is legal. For sure, we are all artists here. Don't rip off artists, you know. So we've got these different songs, and I'm going to have you guys vote. So, well, let me know if the audio is coming through. Did I even click share audio? I might not have. Is the audio coming through?
We can hear it. We can hear it.
So here's one song.
It's a little low. I think we may be hearing it through your speak. No, I don't know.
Can I stop my share and reshare? Am I going to get in trouble for that?
Let's see.
I don't think I clicked share audio.
Hold on 1 second, I believe. We're gonna figure this out. We're going to take a standby real quick, and then we'll come back so that we can hear your audio.
Okay, sounds good.
Just hang tight, everybody. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. I think we have the audio fixed, so now we're ready to hear these samples.
So here we go. Let me know. And this is all licensed music from Triple Scoop. So we're going to go with song number 1. We're going to call this number 1. Kind of a fun song, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and play song number 2. And let me know which ones you guys want to put in there. Oh, this one's got a little space. Dramatic. All right. And we got
very epic.
Very different. And then this one, I think I had more horns or something on. Kind of felt hummingbirdish. Song number 3. All right. So what are we getting in votes for? 1, 2, or 3?
Let's hear it, chat. What do you guys want? 1, 2, or 3?
Choose your own adventure.
Put a 1, 2, or 3 in chat, and we'll figure out which clip we want to use. Cody Bear says song 1.
Okay.
Let's see if we get anybody else.
Song 1 it is. How about that?
Sounds
it's my
good.
favorite too. I think Cody Bear's completely
I think so.
right.
It was very light.
All right. So now I want to show you guys something that I do because I use these markers. Okay, so I play the music back and I literally just kind of close my eyes, and every time I hear a beat, I hit a marker. Okay?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that because I think it adds a little bit more if the clips change on the beats. All right? So I'm going to hit play, and you can also short key for play is to just hit spacebar. So I'm going to hit spacebar, and then every time I hear a beat, I'm going to click the marker tab, which is this tab here. Okay? All right, so did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm gonna go in here, and I'm actually gonna change these clips a little bit so that, and it's nice because it'll snap them right to the markers for me. So I'll pull this one back to the marker, and you know, these are just such small changes that and I can grab all 3 of these clips and extend them out and make this one go to the marker. Right click ripple delete. And then I can cut this one right at the marker there. Let's just do it this way because it'll snap it to there for me. Ripple delete. And then I have to make sure that I haven't cut any of the good stuff out. Because sometimes you accidentally cut some of the good stuff out doing this. And then I want to take this audio clip. This is all on my audio channel 2, because audio channel 1 I have muted, which is the ambient sounds of the birds. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut this at the end here. And I cut that using that same razor tool. I use a selection tool. I am going to drag that there. And I'm also, just because I am such a big fan of, you know, giving credit where credit's due, I'm going to make a little title. I have a title scene for the music, just so that, yeah, respect back to troubleshoot. Okay. So now the transitions should work with the music. See that? I'd have to fine tune it a little bit. Not as good at this when it's streaming and all sorts of things, right? And I could pull this off just a little bit, but now I'm going to take my audio, I'm going to extend it a little bit through that, and over here on the right side there's something that says audio effects. I can click on the audio, no, I'm sorry, I want audio transitions. I can click on crossfade and I can fade that music out. I can pull the dots together and I can make that fade even longer, so it's not an abrupt stop to the music. Yeah, the music fades down. Nice. And I can also go back and do my video transitions and do a dissolve at the end of the video here, right? So that's how I connect with my, yeah. And then if I had the bird making its call or something, and that's something that we'll definitely hit on a bit tomorrow, I will put the audio in from the ambient nature sounds and stuff like that, but I don't want to do too much at once. I think important for us now is to learn how to turn this into a TikTok, and if that's okay. So
yes, absolutely. We have about 26-ish minutes left.
Perfect. Perfect.
If I'm doing my math right, it's somewhere in that ballpark. So yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. All right, so I'm going to do this by a new sequence. So I'm going to go to File, New Sequence, and it's going to add a whole nother sequence. This one, I am going to go to Settings, and I'm going to reverse these, 1080 by 1920, because this is what I found to be a good ratio for TikTok. I want that same 29.9 frames per second. This all looks good. I can call this TikTok, and I can also save this preset as my TikTok preset. I've already got a TikTok preset, so I'm just going to call it TT. Anyways, okay. So now I've got my TikTok preset. So here's the great thing about shooting in 4K. When I take this whole sequence, and I can do that by creating this box and just dragging and selecting everything, and then I can Control C, and then when I go to TikTok and I Control V it, oh my God, I'm so tight. I can zoom in so much, right? So cool, look at this. You get so many more details. Kind of cool, but nothing lines up. So we're gonna talk about lining this stuff up, right? There's automatic ways to do it, which is really cool. Some of the automatic ways that you can just kind of like get the artificial intelligence to like line everything up for you. But I'm too much of a control freak for all of that. I'm going to go back to my editing workspace, because my editing workspace, I love having all my effects control. When I click on an individual image, you can see over here that I have all these things under motion, position. I've got all sorts of things that I can change over here, which is nice. So I can zoom in, I can zoom out, but you got to look for those bars up at the top and the bottom. I don't want those bars.
Right.
And I can move my image back and forth, right? So I can take this first hummingbird and like put it just a little bit more to the left. And I can do the same thing. I actually really love the position there. This one is where it really messes up though. And I can, just move these numbers. Right. So this one is interesting because there's like the tongue coming out. So is this the one with the tongue, or is this the stretch? This is the tongue. So what I may want during this clip is I may want movement that goes over to the right. So the camera pans from left to right to show that tongue. Okay, so this is where we're going to get into keyframing. Are we okay? Are we ready to do a little keyframing?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
So over here, it's really nice because you've got a reflection of the timeline of this sequence here. Right? So wherever I am here is where I am here. So you have the front of the sequence, the end of the, or not, the front of the clip, the end of the clip, right? So if I go here and I put what is called a keyframe, it'll keep whatever settings I have static right there. So I can do the scale here, and then I can like make another keyframe, say at the end, and zoom in, right? And then you want to take this keyframe and move it to the very end. So now what that's going to do is it's going to zoom in as you're going through the clip, right? Pretty cool. You can do a lot of this because I shot this in 4K, so I've got all the resolution that I need to play around. But now say we want the position to go left and right. So I want to toggle that on. I want to start with its position that it's in right now. And then I want to take this and figure out where I want this to end. So I'm going to move this to the very end of the clip. And I am going to, yeah, I want this time, I want it to kind of end in that position, right? So now I'm going to take this to the end. All right. So now, you see, it zooms in. And you know what? I actually love this, but I don't love the scale. I want to keep the scale not zooming in. I just want it moving left to right. So I can toggle this animation off and delete all my keyframes for the zoom in. Now it should just go left to right. See? Kind of cool. So you can see the tongue. Does that make sense? Everyone good?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna move the stretch there. Oh, I want the stretch to show a little bit more space there. This bird you can't even see right now, so yeah. When it flies off, there we go. All right, so let's check that out. Now we got a piece with TikTok proportions. Same thing. When you go, okay, so one thing that did trip me up at one point in time is before you export, you want this blue box lights up around whatever selected, okay? Mm-hmm. When you're exporting, you have to have your timeline exported. You have to tell from your probe, this is what I want to export. Because if I go here and then I try to go to File, Export, it's not going to let me export. Oh, it does. Which is the one that doesn't let you export? If I'm in the wrong panel, sometimes it doesn't let me export. Yeah, see? It's not going to do anything. Okay, so I want to click here and then go File, Export, export my media, and then yeah, it's already set up for TikTok because I already made the sequence settings. If you go into the presets, you might be able to find a TikTok preset. Does that have a TikTok preset? I can check.
Not sure. Yeah, just check.
I'll check.
More presets. Type TikTok.
It does. It has a TikTok preset. Pretty cool, right? So yeah, I can export it, and then I have to like get it on my phone. If you know, a lot of times I'll just throw it up on my my cloud or my Google Drive or whatever, and then I'll download it on my phone, and then I'll upload it to TikTok, and then I'm done. So that's a little bit about how I add the audio, real quick on keyframes and on TikTok. And then I have something else I want to share with you guys and show you guys since we have a little bit of time, right? Well, yeah. Okay. If it's all right, I'm going to, no, I don't want to stop the share. I just want to close this window. Save changes. No, I don't. Actually, maybe I should have. That one was kind of cool. It was really cool too, because this journey into video has just been like such an amazing opportunity, and like getting these commercial jobs. I do want to share with you guys, since we just did the birds, I'm going to share with you guys a project I just finished for Nikon on the hummingbirds of, well, it's on the birds of Ecuador. It was all with the Z9 400 2.8 lens, the new mirrorless lens with the built-in teleconverter. But you guys will see a little bit about like kind of a whole piece that I've put together. Wondering if I should try the 4K version or if I should do the small version.
You can see which one plays. See if the 4K plays.
Oh, yeah.
Have you played it fine before?
How does that look? Just real quick.
It's looking good to me. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to play the smaller one.
Question.
To look good.
Do you have a favorite lens for shooting birds specifically?
Yes. Oh, what have I done? I do. I usually use my 500 5.6, but I'm now obsessed with this 400. It was really cool. It was a really cool lens. So this whole piece was done with one lens. and it's got a built-in teleconverter, so the 400 with the 1.4, and you can stack it with other teleconverters. So you can use the internal 1.4, use a 2x, and for photos you can put it in DX mode, which brings the 400 to 1680. If you're curious about all that, Nikon's last couple of videos on their Nikon USA website are the BTS and this campaign. So you can watch it in all its 4K glory on Nikon's YouTube channel right now. But here's the video.
Wow.
So that was just released on Thursday. I was pretty excited because I was pretty excited for this shoot, and
so good. It's so good. Watching the hummingbirds, nature, a natural nature's gimbal is just wild. Like the head's completely static and everything else is moving.
It was such a fun campaign. And that's why I'm really excited about tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to go into the Z9 campaign and actually putting together like a full campaign piece. So today was more on the short clips, and then tomorrow is on like how to put together a finished piece. And I'm really excited about tomorrow. I did have another thing I wanted to teach today, though, if we have time. Do we have time?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have
Yes.
about
20 minutes?
it's closer to 15,
Okay, perfect. That's all I need because this
16,
is so.
17-ish. Yeah, there we go. Somewhere
And
in
I
there.
know, Wade, we were talking about this a little bit before, but it's so funny because, like, making the transition from photo to video, like, I am also in love with time lapses, and me and
Hmm.
Paco did a live recently on time lapses of mushrooms and fungi and florals, and we had a lot of fun with that. But I will say that every time I do a slow motion video piece, I know it's not slow motion, but I always end up putting a time lapse in it, like always.
Oh, that's
I
interesting. Yeah.
I think it's like the scene setter, the establishing
Hmm.
shot. There's something about, and I think it's really beautiful because it's a different way of manipulating time, but it's also, and as you saw with that, like at the very beginning, there's the clouds, which that was really
Yeah.
hard to kind of do a time lapse with a 400 millimeter lens, but it was like everything had to be 400 millimeters, so I was really excited about that. But I ended up getting that real tight of the clouds moving through the forest. But I'm working on a slow motion video piece right now of prairie lands and wildlife that lives on the prairies. And when I went out to the prairies,
With an expert.
I yeah, there were a lot of experts on this trip. It was like all conservationist experts teaching me about like
Nice.
prairie wildlife. It was one of the most beautiful experiences. But the drive down, while it was beautiful, I got caught in a prairie storm,
Can you
which
explain what a prairie
it
storm
was like we
is?
were really close to the border of Canvas. We were in southeastern Colorado, and I was like scared at this gas station, just looking out my window, going, "Oh my gosh!" And then when I made it to my destination, it was like this lightning storm that I had to drive through. I
Oh,
had to
wow.
drive through it not once but twice because I wasn't being the smartest person on my trip down. I was driving down and I see this crazy storm that scared me so much that I pulled over and I hung out at a gas station.
Hmm.
And what I didn't realize is
Safety first.
I pulled all the way through the storm. And then when I stayed at the gas station, the storm went back
Caught up to you?
overhead and it went back on the path. And I was like,
Oh, man.
that was not. I'm not used to big storms, but
Well, you didn't have a storm expert with you, so
no,
that's not on you. Yeah.
no. Oh my gosh, I was so scared, and it was so funny though because when I made it, I've learned from my good friend that storms are actually really beautiful on the back end of storms. So there's something about the clouds that come out, and I ended up like. And I think there's something about these prairie storms where my slow motion piece of this prairie area is gonna start with this storm because part of the scene setter and it was just unbelievably gorgeous. So I'm gonna do a quick time lapse and show you how to put that into a sequence in Premiere. I think 10 minutes is all we need because
Excellent.
gosh, it's so easy to do time lapses with the combination of Lightroom and Premiere. Like it's just simple. I mean, you know this, right, Wade? Like you,
Yeah, yeah. Believe me, if we're keeping things simple, I'm a pro at keeping it simple.
I am pretty excited. So here's my Lightroom catalog. This is the storm. And you can't see it quite yet, but yeah, when I scroll down, you can see all of the lightning bolts that are in all of these frames. I've just pulled everything into my library. See all these lightning
Oh,
bolts
yeah.
all over the place, right? Light goes down and you can see them. Oh my gosh, it was like look every like third shot seems every third has a lightning bolt in it. It was crazy, right? So I immediately was like, I want
Are we looking
to.
at footage here in Lightroom?
No, this is photos. Okay,
These
so
are
I put my
photos.
camera.
Okay.
Yeah, let me back up. I put my camera on time lapse mode. No, no, no,
Oh,
no.
okay.
I put my camera on interval timer mode,
Okay.
and I got the camera to take a photo every second, right? So as you can see, this is a shot, and then like this one was taken, and then 1 second later, this one was taken. And I had my camera set up on a tripod. I had all my gear with me, and I was shooting at like zero point 0.4 seconds. And yeah, let's see if I have any other settings to share. No, those are all my settings over here. Um, and then I pulled all of the photos into Lightroom. So I pulled the whole sequence in. There's 375. I actually think it was fully 422 shots, but this is what I cut some shots off the beginning and the end. So we're now going to look at this first image, and I'm going to go into my develop mode. And I'm going to go ahead and just edit this image how I would edit a photograph. So I'm going to add some contrast. You guys know I like to take things dark and then add highlights. I really like that contrast look. And I also like a bit of a vignette. Same sort of edit that I did for my videos, right?
Yeah.
Now this is actually going to get darker and darker because it gets later. So I'm going to make it go a little brighter than I normally would, realizing that it's going to go into darkness. So I've done this edit on the first image, and I'm going to go all the way to the image at the very end. I'm going to hit my shift button, hold it down, and then click on the last image. And I've selected all of the images, and I click sync. And this is really cool too, because if you have a dust spot or anything, you can fix it in the first image and sync it all throughout. You can even crop down if you want that lightning tighter. And now it's going to go through and it's going to edit, like it's going to put that same edit on every single 375 of these images. I'm going to check to see what that looks like at the end. You know what? That's actually pretty cool. It's a little on the dark side, but you know, I might take this last image and I might edit it just a little bit more, add some more whites, make it just a touch brighter. Yeah, I want this to be just a touch brighter, okay? So now that I've done that on that last image, because you kind of have to go back and forth, I'll go all the way back to my first image. I hit the space bar instead of shift. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do that again. You hold down shift and then you click on that first image. It's going to highlight everything. And then I hit sync. It's going to synchronize everything with that last edit I did. So now all the images are edited the exact same way. So now that everything's selected, I go through and I can do my export. And I'm going to do my export. I did this in a folder called 4, because this was the 4th of the sequence of things we were doing today, which is Storm, Adobe Slow Motion. And I put it in a subfolder called S-Edit. Now, here's the great thing about this is you can have whatever size you want here, but you can also go ahead and match your 4K or 8K footage. For resolution, for something that really holds up good in video, I would suggest 72, or if you really want to get fancy, 96 is actually better. So 96 pixels per inch is a really good pixels per inch for stills and video. You can do the long edge. I did the long edge here because I'm doing, like, say I'm doing a video that's just 1080 by 1920. So on a high def video, 1920 being the long side, I wanted something just a little bit bigger than that so I can do a little bit of zooming in post. So a lot of times you want just a few more pixels so you can zoom in or out, because I took these all as high resolution raw files. Like these are all like 45.7 megapixel files. They're huge. So I've got enough data to be able to like zoom into that storm. And I could even make that bigger. I could do this at 4K settings or whatever I want. So I hit export, and all 375 of those images are now going to end up in this folder that I've put called For Storm subfolder S-Edit, and that's the path to where to get to. I'm not going to do that now. I did that before. It's like one of those cooking shows where they like pull the food out. Yep. Like it's already been done.
Let's look what we have in the oven.
So yeah, and now we're going to go into Premiere. So I do tend to not have multiple programs open at once, especially since I'm Zooming with you guys. So whenever I finish with Lightroom, I close it. And whenever I'm doing anything with video editing, I also close everything that I'm not using. I'm very clean with my computer. My active files that I'm working on are on my computer. Anything that's not active is off my computer so that I've got a lot of hard drive space. I don't try to do any of this video editing from external drives. I clear an internal space for all my video editing, and I do things to optimize my workflow in that way. So yeah. So I'm going to now do new project. I'm going to call this Adobe Storm KO.
We have about 4 minutes before
That's all you need.
recap.
That's all we need. Nice. Super cool. So I'm back in here. I'm going to go to importing my media. So under this, under For Storm, S-Edit, I have all my files, right? I click on the very first file, right? And then I click this button here that says Image Sequence. Now, this is really important. Like, you can't break the sequence of the numbers here, okay? So if you delete a file in camera or something like that, you have to rename your files because it's gonna count and it's gonna pull everything in that has the next number. So if you've deleted a file because a car drove through, it's going to not pull in anything after that file. So in Lightroom, you can rename everything. You have to rename it so everything is sequential. All right. That's important, and that's gotten me messed up a few times. So you click on that first image, you click on this image sequence, and it is going to pull everything in as a time lapse at 29.97 frames per second, which is its default. So it's going to take all of those pictures, put it together as a movie for you. So easy, right? Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go to File, New Sequence. And where's my sequence? It's like I've got all these lights behind me so that you can see my face, and then I can't see my computer. I'm going to go ahead and just use this KO 1080 because I've made it. It's easy, right? I don't have to build my own sequence. And now I can pull this storm in, which is here. That's fine. All right, watch this. It made a time lapse for me. Can you see that?
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. That looks amazing.
So I can mix that in with my other footage, and that's all I do. And you can take this and you can do the same thing that we were doing before, where you can, you know how I was right-clicking over here? You can right-click on it on the timeline, and you can change your speed duration here. And so I can now go and make this a little faster, say it was a little slow for me. In time-lapse, I find that I'm constantly changing the speed a little bit at the end, just to kind of make it nice and pretty and clean. So there's my storm.
Very cool.
This is a big file. It's kind of glitching my picture a bit. But yeah, so I wanted to show you guys that before tomorrow, because tomorrow there is a time lapse that I put in. But today was more about video. But yeah, it's really easy to combine the two. And from motion to stills to motion, I feel like time lapse is a great thing to play with as well. And if you're interested in time lapse, definitely check out the recording that we did that me and Paco did for Adobe Live. Like, I guess it was about a year ago. But we go into a lot of details about time lapse.
Maybe Cody Bear can find that for us and put it in the chat. Kristi, if you want to give a recap for what we did, but I think you just kind of did. But maybe we can talk about what we're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah. So what we did today, we first started with a very simple, like thinking about using moving stills and using little bits of video to enhance websites, to put on your Instagram and your social media. We started with a very simple black and white. We moved to a very simple color. And then we moved to a video that incorporated music and did TikTok and all sorts of things, and a little bit of keyframing. And then we showed really quickly how to do a time lapse, and that's something you can incorporate in. So today was all about short form and producing stuff and great visuals for either your website or your social media. And tomorrow is going to be, I was really excited because I did end up with a Nikon campaign that was on their new flagship mirrorless camera, the Z9, that was all on slow motion video. I was like so nervous. It was so much fun. It was awesome. And so I'm going to break down and show you guys the raw footage there and show you how I clipped together an actual campaign that celebrated high altitude mountain wilderness. So that's,
that sounds amazing.
That's, yeah. If we have, how much time do we have? We're like really.
We're wrapping up right now.
Okay.
But yeah, can't wait for tomorrow. I think it's going to be amazing. This is, I think, the last live day, but stick around for other streamers that may be streaming on Behance. Adobe Live will be back tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time for a special photography stream with Adobe evangelist Terry White. Thank you, Kristi Odom, for hanging out with us and showing us all your tips and tricks. Yeah, we look forward to tomorrow.
Thank you all. And if you guys have a chance, I'd love to see some of your work. Follow me on Instagram. It's at Kristi Odom. Follow me at Behance and reach out. You guys have spent a lot of time looking at my work. I'd love to see yours. I love collaborating with artists. So thank you so much for your time today. It was such a gift.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, have a good one. Bye.